Welcome to Campaign Chronicles, our daily look at the race for the French presidency. And today we're looking at the candidate's relationship with Europe after President Sarkozy announced plans to renegotiate the Schengen Treaty in a major speech on Sunday. He also backed protectionist trade measures, and he's not the first candidate to do so, as rivals from François Hollande to Marine Le Pen have all promised to boost French production. For more on this, I'm now joined by press reviewer Elena Casas. Hello, Elena. So this is a bit of a surprise move for the president, isn't it?
Hello, Claire. Yes, well, he spent most of the 5 years defending the idea of Europe and making public appearances along with Angela Merkel. And over the last few months, he spent a lot of time, as have other members of his party, criticising François Hollande's plans to renegotiate the recently agreed European budget treaty. He said numerous times that it's naive and unrealistic to renegotiate European treaties like that. And now he wants to renegotiate the Schengen Treaty, which, unlike the recent budget agreement, is something that's existed for 20 years and isn't really being called into question by any other European leaders. So for Le Parisien, they've headlined this with the shock move that's going to restart the election campaign. For the business paper Les Echos, it's Sarkozy goes on the offensive in favour of European protectionism. Now, they say on the inside that this does seem quite contradictory. It's clear who he's trying to target. There's been an anti-European majority here in France for quite a long time, both on the left and the right. Remember the 2005 Lisbon Treaty that was defeated in France because people were worried about too much free market economics within the EU, endangering their jobs mostly, despite both major parties supporting that agreement. Recent polls say more than half of the French say they do want European laws about both immigration and trade laws to be renegotiated because they think they've gone too far. So there's clearly, a popular base supporting this sort of seemingly anti-European rhetoric. Now, Les Echos says those ideas that Sarkozy put forward aren't necessarily new. Lots of the candidates have been talking about supporting made in France and French production and stopping jobs being outsourced to China. Virtually all the candidates have been talking about that. And then this idea of renegotiating the Schengen agreement isn't completely new either. Sarkozy and Berlusconi talked about it last year when they felt that France and Italy were having to take an unfair share of immigrants coming from Tunisia after the Arab Spring. But what is new, Les Echos' editorial points out, is the fact that he says he would act unilaterally if Europe doesn't move on this within a year, which would be quite a dramatic break, according to them, with European tradition. He's always been someone who's wanted to do things in concert with his European partners. Now he just wants to forge out on his own. So that's quite a big change, they say.
But obviously that's in the lead up to the election, so he's turning on Europe, it seems, to attract right-wing voters.
Absolutely, and it seems to be working with Le Figaro, a quite right-wing paper. They've got as a headline, Sarkozy wants to end with Civ Europe. So they obviously agree with him that there are too many holes in the current European borders. Interestingly, though, they've headlined their editorial, Sarkozy, Europe's advocate. They kind of got a little bit of a tangled line of reasoning here, but they basically say that in trying to renegotiate the financial treaty, Hollande is being naive and unrealistic, but in trying to renegotiate Schengen, Sarkozy is following the footsteps of de Gaulle, according to that editorial, putting France in its right and natural place at the heart of Europe, trying to protect it by defending it. Obviously not a position widely shared on the left. Inside this Libération, the headline here says Sarkozy targets Europe at the top, and inside they accuse him of improvisation in their editorial, saying that yesterday he showed that he's willing to do just about anything, including sacrifice the interests of the whole of Europe in order to win over his right-wing electoral base that he's worried are going to go and vote for Marine Le Pen. They say there's numerous contradictions in his speech, not only on Europe, but also he said things like, you need experience, and then the next sentence he said, one can't know what it's like to be president until you've been one. So they reckon he's absolutely full of contradictions and he'll do anything to seduce the far right. They actually interview Arnold Montebourg, the rising socialist star, inside that paper as well. He might have done more than any other politician in France to make Made in France such a campaign theme this year, because he did terribly well in the socialist primary by relying exactly on that, talking about how he would reindustrialise France and stop jobs being outsourced. And he, of course, as you might expect, says in the paper that he's been saying this for years, and the president is 5 years behind the left on this issue.
Now, what are the papers making in other European countries of this threat by Nicolas Sarkozy to withdraw from Schengen?
Well, they're not very keen on the idea in general, I think it's fair to say. Spain's El País says that yesterday he was trying to be a statesman rising above ideology, and he failed completely there, saying he would sacrifice Europe's broader interests in favour of re-election. He also said that countries that don't toughen up their borders should be expelled from the EU, which El País sees as direct attack on countries like Spain and Italy that, for just geographical reasons, because they're nearer to Africa, have more immigrants arriving there, and so find it more harder than France to keep their borders sealed, so they reckon that's an unfair attack on them. Over in Germany, Die Welt accuse him of populism, saying that it's dangerous, and they're not necessarily keen on Hollande's plans to renegotiate the budget discipline treaty either, because they've strongly backed Germany's attempts to write that into stone across Europe. But they do say that all of these French candidates saying they want to impose tariffs that would force companies to produce more in France might inspire other European politicians in Germany and other countries to also impose protectionist tariffs, which they reckon would be dangerous for business across the board. And here in the German magazine Der Spiegel, François Hollande himself has given them an interview today in which he seems pretty confident about his chances of getting that budget treaty renegotiated if he is elected. He says, if I'm elected, I'll have the power of France behind me, and Angela Merkel will have to listen to me.
Now, Made in France is certainly the trend at the moment, isn't it? One paper, though, asking if the candidates are really practicing what they preach.
Yes, just very briefly to finish on, Le Parisien has gone to find where exactly all the candidates' campaign merchandise is made, as they've all had so much to say about Made in France.
The posters, the badges, are they all made in France?
Exactly, and the results are quite embarrassing. François Hollande has sold 20,000 campaign T-shirts, but they're made in Portugal, and the logo umbrellas are made in Holland. The UMP are doing even worse. From their campaign, you can buy key rings and notebooks and T-shirts and even iPhone covers saying Sarkozy 2012, but it's all made in China. And even Marine Le Pen's campaign isn't actually putting French first, as they often say in their campaigns. Their T-shirts with her face on them are actually made in Bangladesh. We should point out, though, that François Bayrou's centrists and the far-left campaign of Jean-Luc Mélenchon actually are practicing what they preach, because all their merchandise is made in France.
But the others have been caught out by the paper. All right, thank you very much, Elena. That's it for Campaign Chronicles. That's it from all of us here on Live from Paris. Thanks for watching. Do stay tuned to France 24.
Welcome to the southern French city of Marseille, host of the 6th World Water Forum, the largest global gathering on the topic. This week we offer just a taste of some of the issues on the table.
Don't miss Environment. Today, 10:15 a.m. Paris time, on France 24.